Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Brenda Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Diane Wilking, author and yoga instructor. And we are going to be talking today on the topic, using visualizations to enhance your yoga practice. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, well, thank you for being here as well. Yoga is such a great practice. So I'm glad that we are able to talk about it and help people to enhance their practice. All right, guys, so let me give you guys a little bit more information on Diane. Diane has worked in the field of education for over 30 years in a variety of capacities. She began her journey in yoga as a result of managing back pain and found that it added so much more to her physical and mental health. Some of these benefits include strength, flexibility, focus, stress release, and reflection. Diane is a certified yoga teacher who strives to balance the physical asanas or poses with other limbs of yoga. Diane says that using visualization with my yoga practice has greatly enhanced my life. And I want to share this tool with other people on their journey to a more focused, successful state of being. Awesome. Well, I want to say that, years ago, I started doing yoga on my Wii machine. And it was, that was, I don't know how long ago that was when Wii was the thing, but we had some really good yoga things there because they had this class and you had this board that I was able to pick up your moves and all that. And then I did that. And I haven't done yoga in a while, but recently as last week? Yeah, last week, I was listening to Sadhguru, because I love Sadhguru. Yep. And he was saying that science shows that people that do yoga rebuild neurons in their brain. And I said, you know what? I got to do yoga. I want to rebuild my neurons.
The older we get, yes, the more we need to do it for sure.
I said, I need to do yoga. So I started, doing a yoga that he calls something on top of yoga. It's not the full yoga with all the the mental capacity. Is just stretches and movements. And that's where I'm on. I don't remember if you call it hatha yoga or what, but it's the yoga that's on top. So, I do my little things for an hour or so.
Oh, good for you.
So it was, So it's, and everybody talks about the real practices of yoga is not just the stretching and things like that. So before we get into that, so tell us your journey to becoming a yoga instructor. I know you said that you were attracted to it because of, back pain. And of course, I have back pain too. So, tell us.
So many of us do. It's not uncommon at all.
Yeah.
So honestly, I have to say, when you were talking about, the Wii and all of those, I remember that as well. In my younger years, I was a little bit resistant to yoga. I've always liked to work out as part of my stress relief, a big part of my stress relief. And I felt like, I had to be doing something a lot more intense than yoga. It just, plus I hadn't had as many experiences with it because there's so many different types of yoga and so many ways to do it, as you were describing, one of many. So I was a little bit resistant, but then yes, two things happened about simultaneously. And one was I started having back pain after the birth of my second child. And so I was looking for ways to manage that pain. There were periods of time when it would become more intense. So all I could do was either do walking or do yoga. And I was kind of worried that I would start to gain weight and that I wouldn't have that stress relief that I so craved. But I found out that, that wasn't the case. I was keeping the weight off and the stress relief. There's so many different kinds of yoga, which I hadn't realized in the past. that it was working for me. And around that same time, the fitness center where I went had a new yoga teacher, and everybody kept saying, you have to try her, like she's so good and everything. And I probably still resisted for about 6 months, I would say. I don't know exactly how long, but I did really connect with her, just the way that she approached it, and was able to, it was a little bit more of a flow yoga, but she also, the breath practice, because I hadn't ever learned how to breathe, even with all this exercising I did, I had never learned, correct breathing techniques for exercise, or for life for that matter. So those two events actually, really I started to do yoga then as kind of my Friday treat, just feel good for the weekend, reward myself, and then, have a good start to the weekend. And then with having to manage more and more of the back pain, it became, more of a, maybe not a daily practice then, but at least a few times a week. And, the stretches that you do in between. So later, the same person, she opened her own studio, and she became, she opened a school of yoga then, and started offering classes. And so even when I started teacher training, I was still I wanted to do it for, to deepen my practice and just learn more about it. But I am in the field of education, so you just can't take the teacher out of, out of it. And I found out that, like anything else, teaching it just deepened it that much more. And I did want to give back, or give some of the things away that I had gained from yoga. And if people had obstacles, to help them, work through them, and benefit from the many, many benefits of yoga.
Okay. So the yoga that like you mentioned, there's several types of yoga. Obviously, one of the beautiful things about yoga is the breathing, combining mind and body, and with the breath. And, because, like I just said, I just started doing yoga last week, and we're starting with some simple things. You're right. I mean, if it's almost like if you're an old person that's sitting in a chair, because we're doing things with our hands, and we're doing the regular stuff about raising up your shoulder and, doing your neck, things like I would do at the beginning of when I was doing any kind of, fitness class. They start off warm up stretching, right? Exactly, the warm up things. So things like that we're doing. But guess what? Everything that you do, you're doing with the breath. So you might, I'm somebody that's watching on might think, oh, this is not doing anything for me. But at least I recognize that the fact that I'm breathing with the actions, it's actually doing something for me, right? So as Sadhguru would say, there's the mental thing about yoga, and he's talking about the geometry of your body. When you go in certain poses, then it connects to different things and all of that stuff. So what kind of yoga do you teach? I know we're going to talk about visualizations in a little bit, but set up your basic yoga that you teach.
So I'm not going to try to give it a name, because probably a combination. There's so many kinds. And for me, probably if I did a little exercise where matching the type of yoga with the definition, I'm not sure how good I would do. Okay. But my favorite yoga to teach and to do would be, we call it 30-30, where it's about 30 minutes of vinyasa, where it's a little bit more active movement on the breath, a little bit more energetic, and then 30 minutes of more relaxation, and not necessarily the 30 minutes first of the intense. So you might do 10 or 15 minutes starting out with the stretches, kind of like warm up, like you were describing, and then move into the flow or the physical aspects of it, and then wrap it up with, some more relaxing stretches. Okay. But that is just my personal preference. I have done all kinds of classes, and there are some where you actually hold the poses for for a long time. And that's just to work, more deeply into the muscles. And then there's some types of yoga that are basically, it's the same sequence each time. And that's so that you're not thinking about the sequence, but you're thinking about the other aspects of yoga.
Okay.
Something that I ran across that I thought was really interesting is way back when, I don't want to say when yoga started, but they really started to do the poses so that people could sit in meditation longer. That was the whole purpose. It's like you think of a small child, like you burn off their energy so that they can sit for longer. And that was the original intent behind yoga, was not the poses. That was a vehicle to getting to a deeper level of consciousness.
Well, that's the thing, actually, that, like I said, Sadhguru was talking about, because most gurus, or most, anybody that with the higher consciousness, they connect with the yoga, and they're saying that yoga is not all about the stretches, that yoga is about, the breath and connection, and what you just said, you're linking in the fact that maybe if you learn to hold your body in a certain way, then maybe you can sit and meditate for longer times. But the Indians, and they incorporate yoga with spirituality, right? And higher consciousness, and so that's awesome. And it all has to do with you're right, the mind, body, spirit connection, the mind, maybe with the meditation kind of aspect, the body with the poses, and then spirituality, getting to whatever, right? So but what you're saying, that even if we do it as a basic foundation, then it helps you with relaxation, it helps you with your back pain. So talk about that for a minute.
How it helps you with
your back pain, and I'm assuming you don't have back pain anymore.
Well, okay. So I ended up, I did have back surgery that was moderately successful. So I still had to, after that, I used yoga to recover, or to help me recover. I had to be under the care of a physical therapist. But so after that, it became more about managing my back pain. And now I'm at a very good place. But yes, there's specific poses to benefit your back, your core. Obviously, the opposite of your back is your core. So it's important you have a strong core. But there's also what they call contraindications, which are things that if you have a lot of lower back pain, there are certain poses that you shouldn't do, or that you should modify. And the old me, the younger me, especially in public, would never have done that. But it was, yoga has taught me some acceptance that way. It is, today I know that doesn't feel good, and I'm not going to try to push it beyond, or even sometimes doing yoga in the morning as opposed to at the end of the day. I just am not, some poses are not as accessible, and I've learned to accept that. So a lot of back pain, lower back pain, I've learned is from tight hamstrings or sciatic nerve. And so there are specific yoga poses, even sequences that focus on those specific muscle groups.
Nice. Love it. As you were talking, I remember the most difficult pose in my 1 hour yoga sequence class is a squat right down. Like, how you see those Indian women squat where their butt is on the ground.
Yes. Yeah. And their feet are flat. That's what I can't forget is that how the feet are flat. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So I thought of skipping it, but I thought I should do a modified version of it. And I said to myself that I would push myself to get better at that, because I've seen those people squat like that. But that is supposed to, that not only squatting, but there are some hand movements and things, and it's supposed to actually strengthen your lumbar, which will be good for my back pain, yes. So I am going to try to do it.
Keep trying, yeah, and I know that over time there's specific poses when I started that I thought, I'm never going to be able to do it that way that I have learned to do. And then maybe now I can't do them anymore, or still have to modify. And there are some poses that I've never done, and I'm not sure that, at least in their fullest form, and I'm not sure that I ever will. But that's okay for me today, whereas it never used to be. So you
Well,
have,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah, it's all about respecting your body
Your
and
body,
acceptance.
right,
Yes.
right, right.
And even
Respecting your
my
body.
instructor, she would talk about sometimes things are just, proportionately, we're all different. So some people have longer arms, and other people shorter arms. So some of those poses where you do wraps and stuff are just
Mhm.
naturally more difficult for people with shorter arms. Maybe
Oh,
not saying that it can't be done, but
mhm.
there are those factors that we're all individuals.
Yeah.
Yes, built differently, have different needs.
All right. Right. So that's a great introduction to yoga. So we're going to tap into the visualization piece now. So
Okay.
my first question here is asking you, let's break it up in two things. What are the benefits of visualization, and why is it beneficial to integrate visualization with yoga? Because I've actually
Okay.
never done that. I never done that. So this is brand new territory for me.
Okay. Well, I'm guessing that you probably have a little bit, but we'll talk about that maybe when we get there. So
Mhm.
benefits of visualization, there's a lot of them. And going back to what you said earlier about the brain and how it changes the brain responds to visual stimuli. And you can, when you visualize something, you can trick your brain into having the same physiological response that you would have. Like, let's say if you're standing by a nice relaxing lake, if you visualize that relaxing lake, so your body, your breath starts to slow. Some of the same reactions you would have if you were actually standing right there by the lake or the relaxing waterfall. So just an example of this real quick would be, imagine that you have a lemon and you cut it in 4 pieces, and you take the lemon and put it in your mouth and take a nice big bite down on it. So what happened when you did that?
Saliva,
Mm-hmm.
started coming out of, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're right. I'm imagining, I don't have a lemon, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my whatever glands here start to prickle. Yeah. What is
Yes.
those glands here called? Yeah. Anyway. Yep. Mhm.
Your taste, yeah. So even though, yeah, and a lot of people will even start to pucker or make that sour face.
Right. Right.
So that just goes to show that even with that simple example, how you had
Mhm.
that physiological response, and that was
Mhm.
just a simple exercise. So that's what builds those kind of neural pathways. And then as you do that, like if you do that, I don't want to say the lemon, but let's just go back to the relaxing lake or waterfall or something. The more you do that, you do build those neural pathways where it becomes like you can access that quicker, and that therefore have the physiological response
Mhm.
quicker, and be able to take yourself there. It also becomes more automatic where you can, oh yeah, even like take a breath and it's like, oh yeah, I have to slow my breathing down, or I'm getting too ahead of myself here. So it really does build those neural pathways and change your brain. It also, just like exercise, releases serotonin, that feel good hormone. So it very much is like a form of exercise that way. What you mentioned about the memory, the more ways that you can, the more senses you can bring into something, then the easier it is to remember that. So visualization is another tool for that. Oh, there's so many. Right now with our technological society,
Mhm.
anytime that you can unplug from technology, you're actually allowing your brain to unclutter, and which promotes creativity, positivity, just all of those benefits of just being away, just having a quiet moment. That's one thing that I always try to incorporate or give to people. And that's what my yoga teacher explained to me one time. I just want them to have a moment of quiet. So just, again, to, oh, one other thing that I forgot about, and this one was kind of new to me, but increase your immunity. Because if you are less stressed and if you sleep better, those are two big factors in boosting your immune system. So visualization can help you, even whether you do it like while you're falling asleep or whether you do it in your yoga practice, it can help you actually boost your immunity, which we all need that too.
Yeah. Well, I love like visualization, and it's actually good to mention that the brain doesn't know the difference, which is why visualization is so powerful, right? Whether you want to call it visualization, whether you want to call it imagination, the brain doesn't know the difference, right? So,
Correct.
I mean, if you were, laying in your bed and you were thinking that you're on a beach and you're listening to the waves, like you said, bringing in all the different things, feeling the breeze on your face and, hearing the waves crashing and,
yes,
seeing something, and you're bringing in all those things, right? The brain doesn't know whether you're there or not. So that's the beautiful thing about visualization, right? So, but it can also work the opposite way. Like you can be laying in bed and you're visualizing that, somebody is coming through your door to kill you.
Exactly. I was thinking that as you were talking, if you don't believe it, because some people are like, oh, I don't believe it. But if you think of the opposite, or how many times have you been worried about somebody driving or something, and you're like, oh, they've been in a car accident, I just know it, and your mind wakes up, your heart starts to beat. And I think we've all experienced that. So you can use it either way.
Good or
And
bad,
part of the
good or
reason,
bad, right?
yes,
Right,
exactly.
right.
And we talk about anxiety, and that was part of the reason. Some of it that I started doing was to help with anxiety. It's like I had to train my brain not to go to the negative, and I have to replace it with positive thoughts.
Good job. Awesome. So, all right. So Bridget with integrating with yoga. I mean,
Okay.
that was a piece
Yes.
that I've never heard of, right?
Okay. So, well, as you can tell, because we talked at the beginning about some of the benefits of yoga, and then we just talked about some of the benefits of visualization, and that is they overlap a lot. The serotonin, the benefits to your body, mind, and soul or spirit, however you want to refer to it. So they really complement each other nicely. And when I said, well, you probably, if you've done yoga, you probably have done some visualizations. Maybe not just, but I mean, I know like one that was for like a shoulder contraction. My teacher used to say, like, you're cracking a walnut between your shoulder blades, and that helps to visualize. Or if you can't get the right, even standing in mountain pose or tree pose, you're rooted down through your feet, and you bring that energy up through your legs, and you're spreading it throughout your body, and your shoulders drop down and all of that. So I would say that you've probably experienced it a little bit that way. Sometimes in like chaturanga, they'll say like you're pushing away from the floor, you're pushing the floor away from you. So there are those kinds of cues that are used in many yoga classes. Also, a lot of times they'll start with, what is your intention? They'll either maybe give you an intention, like, you want to concentrate on being here now, or you want to concentrate on peace, or whatever it is that the teacher might suggest an intention. And they kind of have you just kind of pause and think about that at the beginning and at the end. So that's kind of where it started for me. And a lot of times they will say, think of, breathing all those good things in, breathing in the peace, breathing in the gratitude, whatever it is that you, and just sometimes taking that moment to think about, yeah, what is it I need? Because obviously some days there's a lot of things I need to be grateful. I need to be calm down. I need to do a lot of things. So just thinking about, what is it that I really need? And then also releasing those things that get in the way of it. That is can be pretty common practice. Sometimes, a lot of times, starting out in my yoga teacher that I speak so highly of, she at the end would do, some sort of little, like being at the waterfall or being at a lake or talking to somebody you haven't talked to in a long time. And how does that make you feel? And just kind of those positive memory. And then, so now what can you take with you now that you're going back out into the day? So to go beyond that, as far as the visualization piece, they fit so nicely together that it kind of makes sense. We're also busy, and you can get some of those benefits in a way that naturally, in the same amount of time, that in a way that they naturally fit together. So that was really when I started teaching yoga, that I looked for a resource like the book that I wrote, and I couldn't find one. I mean, I begged, borrowed, and stole, for little bits of pieces from meditations and from, things that I had run across at work. But I wanted a resource like the one I wrote, and I couldn't find one. So that was I know that's a little bit on a tangent, but that's part of why.
No.
That's part of how they integrated for me. It was just very natural.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, as you were talking, I'm thinking that, when I said that I never did visualization with yoga. Well, I'm not a great yoga person anyway, but I mean, I never actually combined them or even think of that they would go together. But then when you were talking about the tree pose, I mean, I know a little bit of yoga. In fact, I did the tree pose and the downward dog and all those poses with my Wii.
Yes.
I know them all, So yeah, if you're thinking that, you're rooted, and in fact, I've done grounded meditations where you visualize that you are going deep into the soil and into the earth, and you're going all the way down until you find water and stuff like that, and you're grounding yourself, and then you're bringing up what you find and the energy and bringing it right through. But I've actually never done it while I'm doing a yoga pose, obviously, right? But now I see what you mean by that if you can, while you're doing your twisting and stuff like that, or you're doing your relaxation, if you're visualizing that you're on a beach or I don't know, waterfall or wherever your happy place is, then I can understand that the relaxation will be total. It would be mind and it would be body, right? And everything. So I kind of get that. So now you wrote a book, and your book is called Pathways to Peace. And you have 20 visualizations to enhance your yoga practice, right? So, you did 20, you talked about 20 of them. So give us maybe one or so of one of these practices that we can wrap our mind around that would enhance our yoga practice.
Okay, so yes, in the book there are 5 chapters. There's self-acceptance and awareness or confidence, gratitude, letting go, relaxation, and then why do I always have to forget one? Focus and engagement. So yeah, so one of them, and each I'm going to walk you through just using a little bit from one, the majestic mountain, if you will. And each visualization has specific parts. And the first part is the setting the stage. And that's kind of where, or it is where I go into helping, like starting with the breath and then having them visualize something. So I'm just going to read like a short little snippet from
Okay.
what I wrote, and then I'll move on to the next section. So sorry. So at the base of your mountain, so I've already gotten them into mountain pose, are the waves of the ocean. Feel the coolness of the water and hear the lapping sounds. At times, the waves are gentle and relaxing, barely touching your base. On other occasions, they're more turbulent, hitting against you with more force. Yet you remain strong. Sometimes the waves rise ferociously to your shins, your waist, and even your chest, but they don't knock you over. Eventually, the turbulent waters pass and the gentle waves again lap at your base. There may be changes to the mountain surfaces, but not to the core. It's similar with yourself. Turbulence might cause changes, but you're strong in yourself, your intention, and all that's at the center of you.
That's beautiful.
So part of if you purchase the book, you get a journal entries with it if you download them. And so part of one of those for this particular one is, what are those turbulent things, but then getting back to, so what are the unchanging parts of you? Because we all, have to change as we go through more experiences and challenges, but what's at your core that you're not going to let go of? So just get started that way. And then each one has connecting through your practice, and it has like a general way. So it might be like you inhale what you're feeling, the core of the mountain, and then you exhale or the core of yourself, and then exhale things that get in the way of that. But then there's also like some specific poses that I'll give some cueing for, just to give some examples of how the cueing or how it could go with a specific pose. And this one actually has warrior 2 and tree pose, which we talked about, but it's kind of like what we talked about, like if you're in tree pose and there's water lapping at you and threatening to knock you over, but you're going to remain focused, because that's a big aspect with tree poses. You have to look, somewhere in front of you and maintain your focus. You're not going to let those things, distract you from your goals or get in the way of your goals. And then not the last part, then there's a closing. So that would be typically that would be done in the Shavasana. But you're going like before you go into the relaxation and you come back to, again, like the mountain. So what's changed about yourself throughout this practice? Like, do you notice changes in your breath? What about your thought patterns? What about, how does your body feel? And then I always try to, like before you open your eyes, identify one trait about yourself that you acknowledge is unwavering within you. And then it asks you to see yourself going forth from your practice with this unwavering trait. And then the very last section is like the affirmation, which I call the booster. And it just says, while I may be faced with turbulence, my core remains unwavering. So it's just something for them. And sometimes I've printed them off and handed them to people as they walk out the door. Other times it's just something, keep this in mind as you go forth through your day, and it kind of wraps it up that way. I do want to throw in that if you didn't do yoga and you weren't interested in doing yoga, well, first of all, you're missing out, but you can still use the book for, because if you do the setting the stage part and then pause and then just go to the closing, it's kind of like a guided meditation. So I like to let people know that too. There's in the introduction, there's a section that says for the non-yoga student or teacher.
Okay. All right.
Does that help clarify what we're talking about?
Yeah, well, I got some circle backs.
Okay.
So one that you just mentioned a minute ago, I wasn't thinking of that until you just said it. But so let's say I was trying to rack my brain about what the mountain pose is. I don't remember the mountain pose, but when you're going into the mountain pose, you have in your book instructions of how to get into the poses. Is it like an instruction book?
No, and that was something that I struggled with and received
Okay.
guidance from my coaches with the writing. So that would be more of like a how-to yoga book.
Right. Right.
This is more, I mean, the target audience is for yoga teachers or,
Ah,
student yogas, and then yoga
so
students.
they
But
already know the poses that you're talking
yes,
about, right?
yeah, because, and that's another
Okay.
good point is sometimes like people, and you're like, wow, this is a lot. You have to, because there's cueing that goes in with the poses too, as far as alignment and all of that. So
Right.
I do stress in my book that, the physical safety is most important. So, you just, there's just a smattering of that language throughout the practice. You should always, first take care of the physical aspects,
Right.
that
Before
to
you get to
help
the
people
mental.
get into the
All right.
poses.
Okay, I got you. So the question,
Okay.
the question I had while you were talking though,
Mhm.
was I have done the mountain meditation. So
Okay.
I understand the connection. When I do the mountain meditation, I'm meditating, but I'm exactly what you're saying, that
Mhm.
I'm immovable. Like,
Mhm.
the mountain stays,
Mhm.
majestic, right?
Mhm.
And regardless of what's going on, whether it's rain, whether it's sleet, whether it's
Mhm.
snow, it stays majestic. And even though
Yes.
like the surface might have some indentations from the weather, the mountain stays majestic. So that's exactly what you're talking about, where you're in the mountain pose, and you're thinking that you're at the mountain is at the ocean is around it, and it's lapping and it's knocking, or it's knocking you
Mhm.
over, whatever. But what I don't get, or I would like you to clarify for the listening audience,
Yes.
is how are they putting in their life experiences and incorporating it as a ocean lapping at their body, or whatever their traumas are lapping at their
Mhm.
body? Kind of bridge that, simplify that for someone that's listening.
Um, yeah, so that one, first of all, as a yoga teacher, it's important that you know your students.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I mentioned earlier is sometimes you give them an intention, and sometimes you just say, pick an intention for today. I was with a group that we had been together for a very long time. So usually we just, each picked our own intention, and that was part of the introduction. So you would, well, one, so in order to do that, a lot of times you offer a few suggestions, and you start off just like everything else with um, being moderate. So let's say you might just throw into the wording there. So you have the waves coming at you, you have whatever crisis at home, you have the pandemic, your kids are all crying at the same time, you have, you lose your job, whatever that is. So you can give some of those examples and then say, but what are you thinking is the strong about you? You always come back. You're always there for people. You always are taking care of other people's needs. What are those core values even for you? Is
Mm-hmm.
it, and because part of it is setting priorities, you can't be all things to all people. So you're always honest, you can offer them some suggestions. Does that help with that?
Yeah, that's actually perfect. Well, it helps me, and I'm pretty sure the listening
Mm-hmm.
audience get the connection, because
Mm-hmm.
you always have to round it, get the
Mm-hmm.
connection, else it doesn't make sense. But
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I get exactly what you're saying, that what is immovable about you?
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, your core values are immovable, that's something
Mm-hmm.
that you don't change, right? So, and even though that you're gonna get all these things coming in, right? Something is going to move you, right? Your emotions, and some
Mm-hmm.
things that you're going to stay firm on. And I guess the flip side of that, or the backside of that, after you recognize that these things came in and you're still majestic as a mountain, then I guess on the flip side of it, it builds self-confidence. Maybe
Yes.
that, hey, that you can weather the storm, or you can go through something and come out on the other side. I'm assuming as a coach, I'm putting that in, but as a yoga teacher, is that what you do?
Yes. Yeah. And so you're, and plus, I think as a coach, you'll relate to this too. So like the choice is there. You're realizing, oh yeah, maybe right now is crazy just because something my child's going through or something at work, and I'm letting that get in the way of whatever these other things. But like it's a choice. It's temporary. It's not gonna, I think sometimes our fear is it's gonna destroy me, or I'm not gonna recover from it. But it makes you see it like as a choice, and like, okay, so right now I do really have to focus on, my ailing parents, or my, whatever the case may be. And yeah, so one, it's a choice. And two, you're getting back to that. And, it's kind of knowing yourself and knowing what's important to you, or it is that. I shouldn't say it's kind of. The other thing I would say, so actually the question that you asked, what is one of the immovable parts about you? That would be one of the reflection questions if you did decide to download the reflection journal.
So. Okay. Yeah. And that's good to know. And like I said, it gives you self-confidence in it. And it makes you like, the Bible says, when you go through things and you recognize that you've gone through it, then the next time it shows up, you have confidence that you've been through that, and it's not gonna knock you off your feet. If the last, and even if the last wave knocked you down, you were prepared for the next one.
Yes. Yeah. And it goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning about training your brain. So like, yes, you have the physiological and mental capabilities to use for your benefit when you go through it again. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. So that's amazing. All right. So we understand now, about your book. What do you want the readers to walk away with after reading the book?
Well, I want them to have a tool for self-care. So as we've talked about it, we're so busy, our lives are so cluttered, and can be at times very stressful. I think that is on the back cover of my book. Life is stressful, that not many people would argue that fact. But please, take a minute, or however, take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your spirit or your soul, and you will be a better spouse, you'll be a better employee, you'll be a better parent, a better child. Everybody matters, and and it matters that you take care of yourself. And I want this to be a tool for helping you, do that.
Yeah. So great. So yeah, if you're a tool for a mind, body, and spirit connection, that's what really yoga promises, right?
Yes.
And then when you incorporate the visualizations into it, it makes it a very powerful tool. So yeah, I get it. Excellent. All right. So, our conversation has enlightened, a few of my thinking processes regarding yoga. And as I do my yoga now, because I started it back, I'm going to incorporate some visualizations.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Into my yoga. So, all right. So, tell us how listeners can get a copy of your book. Tell us about your website, your social media handles, and how people can connect with you. And I think you mentioned that you have an email address that you wanted anybody to, contact you, maybe regarding yoga and yoga practices or things like that. So go ahead and share that with us.
Okay, so my book, Pathways to Peace, is available on Amazon, and it's a paperback or ebook. And when Myrna lets me know when this podcast will actually be
Aired, right?
aired. Yeah, couldn't think of the word there. I will drop the price of the ebook down to 99 cents. So that would be a good
Okay,
opportunity for you to try it out.
okay.
In the book, there is a free gift, and that would be some of the journal pages that I have referred to. And then I have a Facebook group that is Pathways to Peace. And then my email that she mentioned, if you have questions or comments, would be Wilging, and it's like my last name, Willging, Diane author @gmail.com. And then you can also find me on Instagram, which I can't remember that handle right off, but I know you'll put it in your show notes. I do on once a week on Facebook and Instagram. I will put out, I call it a VRB. It's visualize, respond, and the booster. So I'll offer short visualization, a reflection question, and then just an affirmation. And some of those are little excerpts from in the book, and some of them are completely different. So just to kind of give us a little boost in our week to keep going.
That's awesome. Do you have a website?
I actually do not have a website. When you go to the free gift link, that takes you to my landing page. And then if I do have your email this is my first book, but as I move forward, I will have a website as well.
All right, excellent. All right, guys. Well, listen, I really did enjoy the conversation. Yoga is very, very important. Just like meditation, it is, invading the West, and a lot of people are doing it. And it's, even though it looks like you're not doing anything, you're actually, whenever you're integrating your mind and body with the breathing exercises and movement of your body, then it's actually very good for you. So relaxation, peace, and now you've got a tool in Diane's book to help you to go into the visualization and make your yoga work even better for you, right? Because you were talking about relaxation, we're talking about peace, we're talking about being immovable, we're talking about your core and strengthening you as a person. So yeah, definitely go and pick up a copy of her book. I will have a transcript of my interview with Diane on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. I would have her email address, her Instagram handle, as well as a link to her book in the show page. So if there's any questions that you want, then you can definitely email her or join her Facebook group, which is, Pathway to Peace. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So Diane, thank you so much for, coming on the show and sharing your knowledge of yoga. I mean, I will definitely try to find out some of the poses myself as I'm starting back to help with lower back pain, because I've got that.
Yeah. And many people that either stand a lot or sit a lot, sitting is actually worse, do have that. So yeah. Do what you have to do to take care of yourself in any formation that works for you, because yoga is different for everybody. Visualization is different for everybody, but they both meet you where you're at, and you can move forward from there.
Your point of need. That's what I like to say. All right. Well, listen, it's been a great talking to you. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio podcast and television show. If you haven't done so already, I would love for you to rate and review us on iTunes, because I bring you quality guests every week like Diane to help you transform your mind so that you can transform your life. Thank you, Diane. As we wrap up, any last words?
Oh, I had so many of them when you were talking, and now I don't. Let's see. Just thank you for being here, and I hope that something will stick with you to help you move forward along your journey.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Me and everyone else is listening. Yes. All right, guys. Well, listen. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Diane, for being on the show and sharing your wisdom. And until next time, namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.